Hello, 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 and welcome to Nursing News You Can Use at 5. I'm Tina Baxter, and I'm your host. Welcome to those of you that are on our Nurse Shark Academy Facebook page, those that are on our Baxter Professional Services Facebook page, and those of you that are following us on YouTube. Welcome and thanks for tuning in today. I'm excited to be here on May the 17th, 2023. Let's go ahead and get started because there's a lot to cover today, and I'm excited about what's going to happen. All right, so our first affirmation for today: every accomplishment starts with the decision to try. Every accomplishment starts with the decision to try. Affirmation number two: the distance between your dreams and reality is action. The distance between your dreams and reality is action. And affirmation number three: shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. Shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. Those are our affirmations for today from the Inspirational Daily Calendar by Lauren Dratch. So, very excited about that. So, I'm excited about this. This is my What I Am Reading segment, and boom, it's here. So, I got the I'm Not Yelling a Black Woman's Guide to Navigating the Workplace by Elizabeth Leva. So I went ahead and purchased her book. I've been seeing it all over LinkedIn, wanting to get it to support my sister. And I just wanted to read a little bit to you from the forward because it just arrived a couple days ago and I haven't had a chance to get into it, but I'm excited. And so here's a little bit of the forward. It says, "Why are you yelling? As a Black woman, I have had those words hurled at me more times than I care to remember. Most of us have. They are on the page one of the Angry Black Woman Trope Manual. They are usually accusatory, spoken by someone who does not look like us. The subtext of this phrase, informed by history and epigenetics, is, who do you think you are? Why are you holding your ground? Why are you holding me accountable? Why aren't you letting me control you? How dare you be uppity?" And the N word is silent. This phrase is weaponized to police our tone. It is an attempt to manipulate us into quiet submission. It is meant to mute our voice. The thing is, I was never yelling. We were never yelling. I was merely speaking my truth calmly and staying grounded in my principles. Admittedly, there was a time when I might have allowed myself to be bullied into speechlessness. Those days have gone. I refuse to be silenced. We refuse to be silenced. And we know that we do not have to yell in order to make our voices heard. This is so great. I'm so excited to get into it. And it's because I can relate to it because early on in my career as a nurse supervisor and manager, I got the, well, you're very intimidating. How how am I intimidating? Because I stand up for myself, because I advocate for my patients and my staff. How am I intimidating? Because I set high standards and I expect people to act accordingly. How am I intimidating? Because I dress well, I'm articulate, and I'm smart, confident, and capable. How am I intimidating? It got to be, is it because I have big boobs? I'm just going to be real. How am I intimidating? Is it because I know what I'm worth and I'm not willing to settle for less? And so those are some of the things that came up, and I can relate to what's happening in this book. And we've had some great discussions on it on LinkedIn. So I'm excited to dive into the book. And so those are some things for you to think about because as nurses, oftentimes we are asked to be silent. Our voices are silenced because maybe we're too demanding. That was the other thing. I'm too demanding. Why? Because I'm asking for what everyone else has. I'm asking you to do what you were supposed to do according to policy. Again, as nurses, we need to stand up for ourselves and advocate for ourselves and our colleagues and our patients. And how do we do that? And so nurses have been speaking out more and more. And in particular, nurses of color have had a lot of backlash because of it. because if we advocate for our patients, because we advocate for others and ourselves, oftentimes we get this backlash because how dare you call me into the carpet? How dare you um, stand up for yourself in that way? And so those are conversations we need to think about because let's as we move into our news segment, this is again, and right or wrong, I'm not here to debate the rightness or the wrongness of these actions of this particular individual. But what I want to say is, how is this person perceived? And is it because she's a female, she's a nurse, and a person of color? Is this why she's under that scrutiny so much? So let's talk about it. I mean, these are questions we need to answer, and so there's certain ethical considerations that she needs to have as well. So we're going back to that story about Nurse Gardner, who is also an attorney, and this is the AG now says that he has proof that she was working towards her nursing degree on the day of a contempt hearing. So this is coming from St. Louis. And it says court documents state that St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner was completing clinic work on the day she or a designee was supposed to be at a contempt of court hearing. News 4 Investigates learned Gardner had been enrolled in a postmaster's nursing program at St. Louis University since 2021. In April, the Circuit Attorney's Office missed 2 hearings connected to the case of a shooting of an 11-year-old girl. On April 27th, Judge Michael Noble ruled that there was enough evidence to potentially hold Gardner and one of her assistants in contempt. Gardner did not attend the contempt hearing. In a court filing Monday, Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey claimed that on the day of the contempt hearing, Gardner was doing clinic work for her nursing degree. So again, this is a nurse that she is getting her advanced degree, and she also happens to be an attorney. So this is reported by KMOV, and it says that the document says that Gardner apparently spent the morning and early afternoon hours completing clinic work in pursuit of her nursing degree. Gardner did not personally appear at the show cause hearing that day, and the circuit court concluded that Gardner's office appeared to be rudderless ship of chaos, quote. Records claim investigators for the Attorney General office saw Gardner's car at the health clinic off Manchester Avenue before 10 a.m., and Gardner was seen leaving the clinics hours later. Bailey claimed Gardner is breaking a state law that requires a circuit attorney to, quote, devote their entire time and energy to the discharge of official duties. Gardner announced earlier this month that she would be resigning her position as a St. Louis circuit attorney effective June 1st. So again, this is an issue that's been coming out. And so on the surface, it does look like she may have dual or combating attentions, things that she has to do. And so, yeah, so I found this interesting because there's been calls for her to resign. There's a lot that goes on. And apparently she missed these court cases because she was doing things for her nursing degree. And can I say, just as an aside, nursing is very difficult as a career to be in and to go into a training to be a nurse. And so on the one hand, I know that maybe she had some conflicts in her scheduling because nursing schedules are often at times when, you know, you're supposed to be at work. I mean, that's just the way it is. They're not very flexible when scheduling your clinical. You know, maybe you'd rather be on second shift, and maybe that would have helped her if some of her clinical time could have been after hours. But if you're working in a clinic, your 9 to 5 is usually a 9 to 5, and that's an issue, you know, for nursing students. I know For myself, when I was in graduate school, I worked evening shift. And a lot of times the clinical hours would kind of drift over to some of my evening hours. So I had to put extra hours on different days and try everything I could to make this work, um, and make up my hours, even though I was salary. And I often came in on weekends and all the other stuff to do staffing things. But that didn't count because I was missing those first 2 hours of the day. So it didn't matter that I come in on Saturdays and make up my time other ways. That didn't matter, or that I took work home, or that I was always on call and people called me all hours of the night and all during the day anyway. Didn't matter. Because I wasn't there the required hours at the time that they wanted me to be there. So I get that, and she's in a difficult spot, in a difficult position. Um, that being said, I do kind of wonder if this is somewhat politically motivated as well. But the fact that she's missed hearings and missed critical hearings and someone else was supposed to be covering for her is also a problem. And so I understand that she is resigning. So I wish her well in what she's going to be doing. So let's kind of move on and talk about. Let's before we get to some more bills and things like that, I do want to bring up this case that was there. This is coming out of Iowa, I believe. Yes, Iowa. And this is a case of a nursing home resident who tried to suffocate her roommate. So this is from the Iowa Capitol Dispatch. And I get a lot of stories from them because apparently there's a lot going on in Iowa when it comes to nursing home care. But it says here that an Eastern Iowa nursing home is facing potential sanctions after a resident of the home tried to suffocate her roommate with a pillow, according to state inspectors. The Iowa Department of Inspectors and Appeals has cited Winslow House Care Center in Marion for failure to keep residents safe and failure to prevent resident abuse. According to the report, resident number 2 attempted to suffocate resident number 1 with a blanket and a pillow while she lay in bed sleeping. A serious adverse outcome was likely to occur if staff had not intervened and stopped resident 2 from applying pressure with the pillow over resident 1's face. Now, as a person who's worked in the nursing homes before, things can happen, and that's why you have to be very diligent on a dementia care unit because sometimes they get confused. I remember I was on working, and on evening shift I happened to be there kind of late at night, and I can't remember why I was there that late that night, but it was like 8 o'clock, and most of the residents were in bed, and I just was walking. I think I had to see someone for an urgent issue, and I was walking down the hall, and I happened to hear help, 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 and I go in, and there's a female resident, pulling her um, roommate out of the bed by her foot, and she was dangling off the bed. And the resident was like, "This, she's in the wrong bed. She's in my bed." And I was like, "No, no, honey, your bed's over here." And I was able to break it up. But had I not been there and just been walking by, it could have been a disaster. And this is why I say, doing those room checks, very important because you never know what's going to happen. And so it says when workers approached the bed to separate the two, the aggressor was combative, argumentative, and kept yelling she hadn't done anything wrong, according to the inspector's report. So the aide says she entered the room and found a female resident standing over her roommate who was lying in bed while pushing a pillow and blanket down onto her face. So this is what's interesting and where there's an issue here. So it says a review of the care facility's records indicate that the resident who had attacked her roommate had dementia and that there had been a series of altercations in the months leading up to the April 10th incident. The previous October, the resident had entered another woman's room, arguing with her, and then pushed the woman. Days later, the resident walked to the doorway of another female resident and hit the woman on both sides of her face. And then in January, it was reported that the resident had shoved someone in the dining room. So one resident at Winslow House had told inspectors that she was afraid of the woman, but staff told everyone there's nothing that could be done. The DON allegedly told inspectors that at the time, before the last incident, did the facility provide any increased supervision of the combative resident. So they didn't even, at no time did they watch her, one-to-one her, um, it sounds like send her out for psychiatric evaluation. I don't know what they did, but according to this, they didn't take appropriate measures, according to the state. And it says the director of nursing allegedly reported that after the most recent incident, the home did provide, yeah, okay, one-on-one supervision of the woman for 24 hours. Quote, but corporate instructed us we did not need to continue with it. And that's the issue here. And this is what I want to say. A lot of times, the individual nursing home will want to implement things, but corporate says, no, we don't need to do that because it costs more money. Yeah. So, interesting enough, it says a DIA has been imposed but suspended. Two states fines of $6,500 against Winslow House. The suspension of the state fines enables the Federal Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services to determine whether federal fines are warranted. So they impose state fines. So now there's possibly that they can have CMS fines. So for the past 3 years, CMS has fined the home for a total of $17,933, with the most recent fine imposed in November 2021. So we'll see what happens further with this and if anything happens. But just to let you know that these things happen. And here's my concern, again, is that oftentimes these things happen in individual homes, but where is the accountability then for the ones that are actually making the decisions on the corporate level? That's my question. Why aren't we holding those people accountable? Okay, so let's move on. Yeah, let's go to this bill, because Texas is looking at this bill, and we'll see what happens impacting nursing homes and residents' rights. So they've got major bills coming in, and we'll see what happens. This is coming out of Austin, Texas, with KXAN. It says, after the last legislative session, Mary Nichols thought she was done driving 200 miles from the Dallas area town of Forney to the Texas state capitol to advocate for residents in nursing and assisted living facilities. After the doors of her mother's nursing home closed in 2020 and the state suspended visitation to prevent the spread of COVID-19, she formed the group Texas Caregivers for Compromise. She worked with lawmakers to pass a law giving Texans the constitutional right to, quote, an essential caregiver. She says that, however, the group's work is far from over. She says there are other issues related to long-term care residents' rights that have come up that we have not been able to walk away from. There aren't many people out there advocating for residents. So she's watching two pending bills inch toward passage that could have major impacts on people living in these kinds of long-term care facilities. So one bill, backed by residents advocates, would require a significant portion of Medicaid money be spent directly on resident care and require more transparent reporting about facility ownership. So this is an issue that they're looking at also on the federal level, which we've discussed previously in our reporting. And so this is something that they're looking at. Then another bill would redefine rules governing the long-term care ombudsman's office, which advocates for residents' rights. So Senate Bill 1629 by Lois Kolkhorst, a Republican from Brenham, would, quote, improve nursing care by increasing transparency and accountability for nursing homes participating in the Medicaid program. Her bill would require nursing facilities reimbursed through Medicaid to disclose their ownership structure. And so that's one part of the bill that's going forward. The legislation would also establish a, quote, direct care expense ratio to ensure 80% of Medicaid reimbursement money is spent on resident care. The legislation also authorizes the Texas Health and Human Services Commission to recoup, quote, all or part of the reimbursement amounts paid to a nursing facility that are subject to the direct care expense ratio if the facility fails to spend the reimbursement amounts in accordance with direct care expense ratio. So this is going to be interesting to see what's happening, because, again, they're looking at this on the federal level, and they're also looking to implement things on the state level when it comes to Medicaid, because Medicaid adjutes, the state adjutes the Medicaid money. So that's a state program. So CMS, that Medicare program, is the national program or federal program. So that's some of the information that's coming out. So as we're seeing some of these bills across the country on the state level, it may impact what happens with CMS on a federal level. All right, so let's move to this next case, and this one is from Politico. And I found this interesting because it says how a green card freeze will exacerbate the nursing crisis. Now, we've previously reported about facilities in the United States and Canada and other places, the UK, importing nurses from elsewhere. And there's been some backlash because it's left a deficit in the countries back home from when they've come. But this is interesting because it says the stream of international nurses coming to work in the United States could soon slow to a trickle because of a backlog of green card petitions at the State Department. The department announced in its May bulletin it moved the cutoff date for visa eligibility to June 1st, 2022, meaning only those who file petitions before that date will be able to continue their applications this fiscal year because of soaring demand. Anyone who filed a green card petition in the past year, which could include thousands of nurses, won't be able to proceed with their applications. And so then that becomes a problem. The shrinking labor pool has ripple effects beyond hospital walls. The reduction of foreign visas will affect nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and hospice care, which could increase costs and delay care for the elderly and dying. An estimated 100,000 registered nurses in the U.S. left the workforce during COVID because of stress, burnout, and retirements. Another 60,000 have reported intent to leave the workforce by 2027 because of the same issues. The U.S. is now facing a projected shortage of more than 200,000 nurses in the next few years. So because of that, they've been importing international nurses. And so the foreign workers comprise of about 15% of the workforce, a number that's nearly doubled in the past decades. So in the last decade. But with the State Department's freeze on green card petitions filed in the past year, health systems already crushed under the weight of a workforce crisis that's crimping margins and hurting patient care will be short one of their most effective hiring tools. And so there's a bit of an outcry, obviously, because of that. The State Department says the freeze is a result of higher than anticipated demand for employment based visas in the EB3 subcategory, a massive professional pool that includes all occupations that require at least an associate's degree, but not a master's degree. And so I'm just wondering if maybe they can make some exceptions for healthcare. Because of what we need, I don't know, but this is something to kind of watch. So this was an article in Politico. If you want to read the full article, we don't have time to read the entire article. Please do so on Politico. So that came out a couple days ago. All right. So lastly, this last story is coming from this last story before we get to our Nurses Making a Difference story is coming from across the pond. And this is interesting enough, a story from Ireland. Okay. Let me see. Where is that story? Sorry, that was the wrong story. Oh, okay. Well, maybe I've lost the story from Ireland. Okay. Well, that being the case, then let's go ahead and go on to this next story. So this is a story out of Louisiana. So it's Ochsner Health of the Louisiana hospitals are in dire need of nurses, and here's why. This is what I find interesting in this story. It says when Ochsner Health announced last week it was laying off 770 mostly back office and administrative employees, hospital officials relayed another surprising statistic. They are struggling to fill more than 800 open nursing positions. So one of the reasons is if you don't have the nurses to provide the services, you don't need the back office and administrative staff because there aren't procedures, because there aren't enough nurses. And you can see how this kind of goes back and forth and around and around. So about 9% of all nursing positions in the healthcare system are open. Ochsner, which has 42 hospitals and 200 clinics across Louisiana and Mississippi, is not alone. It says Franciscan Missionaries of Our Lady Health System, which includes Our Lady of the Lake Regional Medical Center, has more than 500 unfilled nursing slots, according to officials there. New Orleans LCMC Health declined to provide specific numbers, but its website site shows some 530 open nursing positions. So, yeah. So they're in dire need of nurses, and if obviously, if they don't have the nurses, they can't do the procedures. So the open positions underscore how difficult it has been for hospitals to attract and retain talent in a profession with long hours, stress-filled working conditions, and until recently, low pay compared to other clinical positions. They also note that the pandemic made attracting nurses even harder, and though local health systems have created programs with local universities and incentives to address the shortage, the need remains. And you have to remember, it takes a while to train the nurse, um, for her to get the education that she needs, and then go through the onboarding process at the hospital. So it is pretty bad, and it takes a while. So it says statistics on the national and local nurses shortage are grim. More than 100,000 registered nurses in the U.S. left the workforce, which we just talked about. And it says in Louisiana, a shortage of 1,845 RNs just 3 years ago are expected to top. That shortage is now expected to top 7,200 by 2025. So they're predicting a greater increase of that. Travel nurses helped fill the gap during the pandemic, though the hefty fees and higher rates charged by nursing agencies made using them costly for health systems. The federal government picked up the tab during the pandemic, but stopped reimbursing hospitals for the cost of hiring travel nurses last summer. And so you can see, again, that's a catch-22. And so, because the labor costs have increased over the last 3 years, and they've had to do some layoffs. So, it did lay off some nursing supervisors um, in the health system and offer them positions providing patient care. The incentive package to place them in frontline roles, they, according to their executive vice president and chief external affairs officer, David Gaines. He says, "We think it is extremely competitive and the responses have been positive," which I think is good. He declined to provide the number of nursing supervisors who accepted the hospital's offer, or whether it would make a noticeable dent in the filling the number of positions. And so this is something of concern, because we're going to be seeing trends like this happen more and more in nursing and hospitals, nursing homes, wherever nurses are employed. We're going to have to do something to make up the shortfall and the difference, beside pouring more work onto our existing nurses that we do have, because that also causes a problem. And it's sort of like a vicious cycle. The more we are understaffed, the more we rely on the staff that's remaining, and the more they get burned out, and the more they want to leave. So there you go. So let's get to our nurses making a difference segment. And I have two stories for that. But I want to start with this story here, because I found this to be a bit heartwarming. It says, once marginalized Black nursing alumni honored with a memorial bench. So this is coming from University of Virginia, I do believe. Yes, University of Virginia School of Nursing. And this is a press release that they put out. And it says, a group of Black alumni who helped integrate the University of Virginia School of Nursing, but until recently were not recognized as graduates, were honored with a memorial bench. Well, did they at least get their graduates? I don't know. We'll see. The licensed practical nursing alumni were part of a 1950s and 1960s partnership with UVA Hospital, Jackson P. Burley High School, and the nursing school at a time when Black students were not allowed to attend UVA. About 150 students, including a handful of men, completed the program that ran until 1966, although the students were not officially recognized as UVA alumni until 2019. Many went on to become successful in the medical field and other pursuits. So we have Charles Berber, a 1960 graduate, became Charlottesville's first Black mayor, and he was a nurse. Cool. Grace Tinsley, a 1958 graduate, was the first Black woman to serve on the Charlottesville School Board. Dr. Anita Ray Smith Pankey, a 1958 graduate, later graduated from Howard University Medical School and became a psychiatrist. Evan Rogers Garner, a 1961 graduate, established UVA's first outpatient neurology unit and taught scores of students in her more than 40-year nursing career. Luella Walker, a 1958 graduate, worked as a nurse at UVA Hospital for 50 years. So I want to say congratulations to all of those nurses, and I am glad that they decided to right this wrong. And it says the new bench, part of the UVA Memorial Benches Initiative, honors UVA students from diverse backgrounds who have significantly contributed to the university. The project was launched last year and has so far honored 8 members of the university community by placing memorial benches around the grounds. So congratulations to those nurses who made a difference and made an impact at the University of Virginia. Now, how about a story a little bit closer to home? One that I will admit that I am part of. So this was in the Anderson Herald Bulletin, and this happened in the street because I was there. It says Convergence Home Care hosts Anderson Nurse Practitioners Gala. Folks gathered at the Anderson Country Club on Friday evening to celebrate local Black nurse practitioners. Organizer for the celebration of Anderson's Black Nurse Practitioners Gala, Tammy Sloss, said Black women make up nearly 5% of nurse practitioners in the United States. Statistics cited by Texas Women University seem to suggest that the number is about 5.2%. Sloss said she wanted to inspire hope in young people of color through the women being honored. She says, quote, our school systems get a lot of negative press, but to know that a lot of these ladies are from Anderson Community Schools and that they're nurse practitioners, they are Anderson's best kept secret. Yes, and some of them are from Anderson. Yeah. Community schools. So it says roughly 10 were seated at the table of honor during the event, including Dr. Wendy L. Shannon, Tina M. Baxter, myself, and Shonda Ferris. Mayor Tom Broderick took the podium to congratulate those being honored and emphasize the hard work required to achieve such high levels of education. Convergence, also who sponsored the event, awarded scholarships to Black high school and college students going into medical careers. About 11 high schoolers received scholarships to help pursue their certified nursing assistant certification through D26. Sloss, the administrator and board member for Convergence, said while D26 program is free, students may not pass the certification test the first time. So a $350 scholarship helps pay for a possible second attempt, plus other odds and ends like gas money and scrubs if applicable. 4 college students receive $1,000 scholarships to support the continued medical education. Tyra Gillespie was one of them. She's currently pursuing a major in neuroscience at the Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. She's a junior. She plans to go to medical school after graduating next year. She may focus on pediatrics and neuroscience, but she's open to other specialties. And so that was great. And so I happened to be in attendance because, yes, I was one of the honorees, but there were so many great nurse practitioners there. And I wanted to say that to all my panelists, the nursing students, those that are in school and getting their degrees, thank you for making a difference. And so that ends our news segment for today. And I want to get to events because, hey, why not? All right, so let's talk about some of our events that are coming up. So I'm very excited about the events that we have coming up for Baxter Professional Services and the Nurse Shark Academy. And for those of you who don't know, we do have a podcast, the Nurse Shark Academy Show, and where we interview nurse business owners and leaders. And so our latest episode just came out. So check out our podcast. And also our latest blog post came up about a leadership topic. So check out our blog as well. That's on our Nurse Shark Academy .biz website. Okay. So we have coming up on May 24th. I do want to talk about this because this is something that I am sponsoring as your local alignable ambassador for small business in Anderson, Indiana, and the surrounding area. We are having our very first in-person meetup at Jackrabbit Coffee on May 24th at 11:30 a.m. So 11:30 to 1, or you can come and go as you like. But I wanted us to get a chance to meet in person. We've networked on Zoom. We've done it on the Quick Connect or Smart Connects. Now let's come together in person. So those of you that are watching and you're local in the Anderson area, join us just to network. It's a networking event. Come bring your business cards if you like. You'll get a chance to introduce yourself and just meet people and support Anderson local small business. And that's what we plan to do. And then on May the 31st, we have our Fall Back in Love with Nursing event. Now, I wanted to have this event after we just had our 2-day challenge at the beginning of the month. I thought, I really want us to talk about what you can do as a nurse, and you don't have to leave your profession. You can leave your job, but not your profession, and what other things that you can do as a nurse, and to fall back in love with nursing and being a nurse again. So we're going to talk about reducing your burnout. We're going to talk about other career paths that you can have. We're going to talk about all these different things, and I have some great items. There's going to be a special prize or a special coupon or giveaway for people who attend. I already have some people registering. It's on our NurseSharkAcademy.biz page. So please go to our website and sign up and register for that event. And no, it will not be live streamed. This is a live event, and I want you there. And no, there will not be a replay. Replay will not be available for this event. So it's a live event. So I'm asking you to come. It's at 4 o'clock on May the 31st. And then coming up, and it will be up on our website soon, we are going to have our Jumpstart class again, Jumpstart Your Small Biz class, and our Freedom Finance workshop together. We're combining the two. And we're going to have that for our nurses. And so that will be on June the 3rd. So I'm going to go ahead and announce that. It's not up yet. But if you come to the Fall Back in Love with Nursing event, again, I told you there's going to be some special giveaways for people to attend that event, that you'll want to get registered for the June 3rd event, because that's when you'll get those gifts and incentives and things like that, and things that we'll be able to offer to you. So I'm looking forward to having those events coming up in the end of May and beginning of June. So that ends our segment for today. Please don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook. Leave us a comment. Give us a thumbs up and a like. Heart us, whatever you want to do, but let us know and drop a comment in below. And so again, the website is there, the NurseSharkAcademy.biz website is there. So join us for that. And then we'll be updating some other information and let you know when it happens. All right. Thank you. And goodbye for now.